Okay, Ivy, you ready to get started?
We're ready.
Okay.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Shreve Memorial Library's Author Chat. Shreve Memorial Library hosts the virtual author chat that is the first Thursday of each month right here at 6 o'clock. And tonight we welcome Mr. Merrill Wautlet and his book, The Rat. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Wautlet is a career finance professional in banking. He lives right here in Shreveport. He has two sons. And we're just going to get right into it, Mr. Watley. Tell us why you wrote The Rat.
Well, I'll be happy to, but I'm looking at the list of attendees, and I think it's a stacked deck, Ivy. These are people I've been friends with for a long time, so it's a friendly audience for me. I appreciate y'all taking the time to join us tonight. But it was really just a grief mechanism more than anything else. We had these two boys, and they were with us, and they were very profoundly autistic and mentally challenged, and it was very much a challenge to try to find ways to best get them the care they needed. And after a lot of just trying everything you could possibly try, from various medical treatments to various therapies, moving to a part of the state that had on paper the best school system in terms of reputation and resources. Eventually all that became exhausted, and we knew we needed something more than what we could get at home. They needed a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week routine, and we just couldn't provide it for them. So it was the boy's mother, who was a special ed teacher, came to me and said, I think we need to look at a care facility. And I had a real hard time with that, because I'm not someone that likes to give up. And I kind of felt like they needed to be home. But at the same time, I also knew that I had to put aside my ego and say what was best for them. So we end up putting him in a care facility called St. Mary's Residential Training Facility in Alexandria, which is a wonderful place. And then later we were able to get them to go into Holy Angels, which is also a wonderful place. But when they were there, they flourished, and they did a lot better, and they began to improve. But at the time, I was still a miserable guy. I just missed them terribly. I was only seeing them every 2 weeks, and I like to write. I had been a stringer for the Times-Picayune when I was in high school, covering football games, and I ended up becoming sports editor of my high school and college paper. In fact, one of my newspaper colleagues is on the call with us right now, so I like to write, and when you write, you tell a story. So I thought, why not try to do something in writing that will let me tell the story? So at first I thought about talking about what it's like to be a special needs parent. I thought, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go down that hole. It's depressing, it's challenging, and I don't want to tell that story. I want to take what's unique about them and honor them with it. So that's when I decided to come up with a premise of writing something that was enjoyable. And I thought, well, what kind of stuff do you like? Well, you like espionage, and you like a good drama and a chase and action. So and my sons had characteristics, and that's when the premise of taking a child who was profoundly autistic, but had certain characteristics that lent him to that skill set, and making a story around it, but also trying to put something in it that would tug at your heart a little bit. So that's when I got the idea to make him into kind of a covert operative, but at the same time, when an opportunity came for him to free himself of his bondage, tell that story about what it would take to do that. So that was kind of the genesis of it.
Wow, what a way to honor your boys. Tell us a little bit about The Rat.
Well, in the book, The Rat is a very young boy who's autistic. He's nonverbal. He's got behaviors. He scores low on most of these standardized tests that you give him, but he's still living at home, and he presents challenges to his parents. But what happens, the way the story gets going, is that they go to a wedding in the mother's hometown, which I set it down in the bayou, a town called Houma, because it's authentic. There their mother really was from there, and I could visualize a lot of the things that I wanted to do. So they go into this church, and he breaks away from his parents, and he scales a column, an interior column of the church, and goes in there, and there's an archangel with a sword kind of protruding, and he hangs from the sword. He's dangling with one hand and then the other, and everyone's gasping because he's 40 feet in the air, and the parents are just irritated. They're embarrassed. They want him to come down, and she's fussing at the father about, why'd you let him go? And he's like, well, I thought you had him. So finally she yelled at him, get down. And he scales down. Well, also at this wedding is her cousin, whose sister's getting married. And he works for the government. He's a covert operative, and he works for a division of Homeland Security that no one knows about. And his job is to infiltrate and stop terrorist cells. And in his mind, he starts asking questions about this child. What does he do? How does he function? So he's got a child that's athletic. He's got a child that can learn through routine. He's got a child that can't talk if he's compromised. And he's small, and he can be trained to go into a home while it's occupied and infiltrate it while no one would even know he's there, and then complete his mission. So he formulates all this in his mind, and obviously he's a warped individual, but at this point, and then suddenly the boy's kidnapped with no reason, and the parents, and he's gone now for a period of about 5 years. And while he's gone, the parents obviously, are grieving and wonder where he is. But now he's fully trained. He's on a mission, and while on the mission, he sees a map, and his mother, who was a teacher, used to show him on a map where he lived. This is your home. All those memories come flooding back to him, and all of a sudden he decides, again, with this laser focus that children with autism often have, he says, the heck with this, I'm going home. And he rips the map off the wall, and now he's off mission. And that's when all the fun starts, because now they got to get him back, and he's trying to elude them. He can't speak. He's in a jet black costume that looks odd. He can't talk. He has no money. He can't read. He can't write, but he wants to go home. And so that's kind of where the story takes off.
How did you come up with that name, The Rat?
Well, in the book, he would sneak into the kitchen where he was being held, and he would often pilfer food and hide in his room. In real life, my youngest son did the exact same thing. He would sneak in there. His main thing he liked to hide was fig Newtons. So one day his mother just decided, she went up to his room, was cleaning up, and she looks under the bed, and there's all these food under the bed. And she comes out, she goes, he's a little rat. He's stolen all this food. And that hung with me. And, we had a lot of little nicknames for our children, but I every once in a while I call him, you little rat, and then when I was writing the book, I thought, well, that's a great code name for him, would be The Rat. And when he does elope and leave from his captors or from his mission, what his handler says is, the rat is out the cage, which is their code for he's on the loose. We got to find him. He's gone. He's gone off mission. So that's kind of the story behind The Rat name.
You were telling me earlier that you took a lot of your boy's traits and rolled it into this character. Tell us about that.
Well, I wanted it to be something that reminded me of them and the things that I appreciate about them. They do have, in my opinion, better characteristics than I do. They don't judge people. They don't care about material things. They're not political or any of that stuff. They just they treat people the way they would like to be treated, and they enjoy simple things. So there's a lot to love about that. And when I find myself going to dark places, I always think, well, how would they behave? Would they get mad about this? Would this get them in a twist? Well, the answer is probably not. And I'm able to refocus. But I guess there were some characteristics that I found fascinating. One was the nimbleness they both had. And we talked about the incident on the stairs where my youngest one had went up our stairs, our home in Mandeville, and stood up on a railing with his back to the stairwell trying to touch a fan. And I catch him up there. I'm gasping. I don't want to startle him. The fan tips his fingers and he falls backwards and turns in midair and lands on all fours on the stairs. When they used to get on the trampoline, they would jump on the trampoline and do all these little jumps and, and bounces, and they'd run all over it, and I'd shoot them with the hose, which everyone said I was crazy. I was going to, cause them to get hurt, and they never fell. They never lost their balance. Focus. When they decide they want to do something, nothing will pull them off that focus. It's that or nothing. They have suddenly made up their mind. This is what they want to do, and they drill down on that. And then a high tolerance for discomfort. My youngest one in particular, one time he was running in the bedroom, he lost his balance, which I say that he tripped on a snag on the carpet, and he went down on all and came up, and he just kind of, his arm looked funny, and my wife looked at me and goes, "Oh, he's okay." I said, "No, he broke something." She goes, "He didn't make a sound." I said, "He broke something. I've broken my arm 3 times." I said, "I know when something's broke." He had broken his collarbone, didn't make a noise. When his baby teeth started to get loose, he would pull them out early. And you cannot put stitches in that child. If you put stitches in, he's not a child, he was 28, but if you put stitches on him, he's going to pull them out. So incredible ability to endure discomfort. And again, a trait that I built into this character. So agility, nimbleness, steely focus, high tolerance for pain. These are all characteristics of this character.
Mm-hmm. Where in the story, I guess, you can say that character endured a lot of pain?
Actually, he doesn't really get in any kind of pain during the book. He inflicts a lot of pain on people, to underestimate him because of all the training he's had. But I would say his endurance comes into question because he's constantly moving. And that's another thing my youngest son is. I'm telling you, I might could have called him the shark because all he does is move and eat. He does not sleep. So he moves and he eats. There's one period of time where he has to swim a great distance, and he does that, and I know that would have to have been, I guess, painful. And he just powers through it. I mean, that's because he has to do this to get where he's going.
Right.
So there's no compromise there. Right? Lactic acid is probably building up in his body. He's powering through it. He does not care.
Wow. Can you give us a little snippet of the story?
Well, you want to read something from it, or did you?
Sure.
All right, let's see if I can find something here that might work.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys have any questions, just be sure to put them in the comment box, and we will ask those questions for Mr. Wautlet a little bit later.
All right, let me see if I can find a short. I've got a lot of short chapters here, so I think I can find one. Okay, this one's he's on the move, and he's out and about, and he's trying to find something that will help him get where he needs to go, because right now he just wants to go home. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't recognize any of these landmarks. This is chapter 6, Sanctuary. Andre was moving briskly. He was putting distance between himself, the target house, and his escorts. Maneuvering up and down various streets, he made sure to weave around street lights to do his best to remain concealed in the early morning darkness. The map was still firmly clenched in his hand. He kept glancing at it while his eyes darted about, taking in his surroundings. Images formed in his head. Andre communicated through images. The picture-enhanced communication system, better known as PECS, was designed specifically to aid nonverbal mentally challenged individuals. PECS had been part of his training, and the result was that Andre absorbed all images and stored them as data. His purpose now was to keep moving until he saw something that was familiar. As Andre crossed various intersections, he would carefully look up and down both sides of the street. He took in all the details of the structures that he saw, but he never paused or stopped. His vision was clear, aided by his infrared lenses and the mask he was still wearing. He had gotten halfway across one street when a building in the distance caught his eye. He veered left and began moving towards it. The sight of it triggered a memory from Andre's past. He advanced forward, all the while sorting through his mental catalog, like a computer retrieving a file. The building was higher in the sky than the one from his memory. but the trappings were the same. It had playground equipment and a familiar architectural style. The image in his mind continued to gel with the building he was studying. He referenced the pattern of the windows, the design of the doors, and the various symbols displayed prominently on the facade of the structure. Andre moved directly in front of it, and for the first time since leaving the target house, he was motionless. He peered long and hard at the bricks and mortar in front of him, cocking his head from one side to the other. Then he walked towards it, his black suit becoming one with the night as he slipped into the darkness. So he stumbled across a school, and he put a school with like where his mom worked, and so he was going to
Merrill.
stay at that school until he figured out what he was going to do.
Wow. And of course, you showed right there that laser sharp concentration, paying attention to doors and that kind of thing. Can you tell us a little bit more about the story without giving it all away, of course?
Well, again, what happens is that, he's been trained to infiltrate terrorist cells and retrieve data using a flash drive. And that way they can take these people to court, even though it's illegally obtained evidence, and prosecute them. Mm-hmm. The administration that was in power they want bloodless stopping of this stuff. And so all the agents that his cousin had hired previous were all trained in combat and things. They weren't trained in stealth or theft. So having this child do that, even though it's illegally obtained, it was designed for them to squelch these terrorist cells. So while he's on mission, he sees this map and he decides to go, to leave. Now he's on the run. Now he's got to get help. So by going to the school, what eventually happens is there's a teacher in there later in the day. They're on spring break, but she's cleaning up her room. And while she's cleaning the room, she sees him in a window in his black suit, just sitting there, and startles her. But she moves towards him and she can see he's a child, and she gestures for him to come out. He slowly steps out of the window. And when he approaches her, he touches her face and he smells her. And that's real important because that's what my youngest son does. He smells people. And that's his way of sensing if they're someone he wants to be with or not be with. And I've never quite figured out why he does that. But she says, please remove that hood. And he takes it off. And that's when he smells her and he's touching her. And he shows her the map. Well, she can't figure out what he wants. And he gets frustrated. He starts to have a behavior. And then she realizes he has autism because she's a teacher and she's seen it. And she goes, where you want to go? You're pointing to a map. And he points to the map. And he keeps pointing to Mandeville. She goes, Mandeville, are you from Mandeville? And he calms because now she understands. What I've woven into the story is that she's from Louisiana, that she lost a child to cancer. And so she moved there. Her marriage fell apart. So she moved there because her brother had died and left this house to her and had an apartment so she could move there. She started her life over. So now she recognized Louisiana, she recognizes this, and all of a sudden she hears a banging on the door because the cousin, who's the head of all this, deduces that he's going to be looking for a banker at school. That he's stepping ahead of, trying to get ahead of him. When she goes down there and meets these men, she realizes, and I won't get too much into it, but she realizes at this point he's in jeopardy. And so now she wants to help him, but he's gone. She leaves and goes out the back way because now she's scared because they threatened her. When she shows up at her house, he's waiting for her. He's there. Somehow he got there, and she's like, "How'd you get in here?" So, but now she's all in, and she's giving him a bath and cleaning him up, and she goes and finds her child's clothes that she kept, and she goes, "My son, this is my son's clothes. His name was Andre." And his face lights up. And then she realizes that's his name. And now she feels like this is like a God thing. And now she's all in. She's going to help him get home. So now it's the two of them on the run. But now he's got someone that has money. that can read, that can help him get home.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
what happens is while they're running, they're having encounters, and that's when he shows her all the things he's capable of doing, which are some pretty remarkable things that you don't expect from someone as small as he is, as disabled as he is, as little as he is, young as he is.
Wow. Exactly how old is Andre the rat?
He's 10 years old in this book.
Wow. So how else were you able to, I guess, infiltrate the mind of a 10-year-old?
Well, again, I had the experience of being his dad for a long time, and I wrote the book over a 20-year period. Again, a commercial endeavor never once entered my mind. This was just me being productive in my mind, and it wasn't until I got to the point where I had reached a mature age of 60 that I thought, I don't want to have something happen to me and have this book die on my computer. What's the good of writing it? So I was touring the Louisiana Association for the Blind facility, really more as a prospect. I thought they'd be a great bank prospect, and saw they printed things. So I engaged them to print the book, just really as a novelty. I was going to give out copies to friends and stuff. And they called me into a meeting and said, we've read it, we love it, we'd like to publish it and see if this could be another division of our company.
Wow.
And so we did that, and then COVID hit. So all my book signing at the Red River Brew Pub was canceled. My book signing that was going to be with you all was canceled.
Wow.
I was named a featured author for the Louisiana Book Festival in Baton Rouge. That got canceled.
Wow.
So we just ground to a halt. And then during COVID, they discovered that they really need to focus on their core business. And they said, look, we hate this, but we don't think we can support you the way we'd like to. So then I had it edited once again, and now I'm exclusively on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. So Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com with an ebook on Amazon, and a printed book on BarnesandNoble.com. And I think I'm in a bookstore in Mandeville. I haven't confirmed it yet, but I think 5 copies made their way down to Book and Bean in Mandeville. So on consignment before I totally cut loose from LAB. And I will be going to Lafayette next month to appear at their luncheon. But as far as how I molded the character, was really just an observation of my boys and trying to ascertain how they would react to things based on my experience with them. But one thing did kind of hit home for me that was kind of a nice thing, unexpected. One of the employees at LAB had their 11-year-old autistic son read the book. And he went to his mom afterwards. He read it twice, cover to cover. And he went to his mom and said, does this man know me?
Wow.
And that kind of hit home for me, because while there have been autistic characters in literature and movies and things of that nature, I don't know if these kids could relate to them. This young man related to my character. And then he read the book like 3 more times, and he went to his mom and goes, Andre's a badass. So I thought that was kind of fun. So it's kind of nice that perhaps someone is in literature now that can relate to a group of folks. But I don't want this isn't a manifesto about autism or to raise awareness. There are plenty of vehicles about that. I really just wrote it to be, like I said, grief therapy for me. Now it's turned into something else. And my core audience has turned out to be women. Women have been, they relate to the child maternally. They relate to the teacher, who is a woman who is helping him. And I have one woman write on my Facebook page for the rat, because I have a dedicated page. She wrote me and she said, I read the book. I loved it. I hope there's a sequel, and I am doing a sequel. I'm putting character development out, but I'm going to age him about 7 years. I'm going to age him up. But she goes, the ending left me unsettled, because unless you're writing a sequel, because I left his antagonist alive. and she and she's concerned about his welfare. And there was a part of me that wanted to say, well, you know, he's not real, but but she really was, that really bothered her, you know. And so that told me she's relating to him like a mom, you know, and she doesn't want anything to happen to him. And she didn't like and in fact, I've never felt so much venom for a fake character like I do for this guy that kidnapped him. I mean, people want him gone. So I basically have to get rid of him in this sequel, or I'll probably face some backlash. I mean, they really don't like him at all.
Is there anything that you want your audience to learn from this book?
No, not really. I like I said, this has all been kind of like providential and by accident. What do you call it? Serendipity. I never expected this to really, and I still don't know if it's going to take off. You know, I mean, I've probably sold a couple hundred copies maybe, and most of them are people that know me. And I do look at all my reviews have been favorable. The only reason I think it might be pretty good is that when people go out of their way to tell you, hey, I liked it, or I enjoyed it, or I couldn't put it down, I don't think they would do that unless they really meant it. You know, I think if people didn't like it, they just wouldn't tell you anything.
Right.
So the fact that I've gotten so much, and some of the people have read it, I don't know, really like it. That's kind of nice too. So, but no, I feel like it's a short read. You can do it in about 4.5 hours or so. I designed it to be a roller coaster. You get on it and you start to go, and then hopefully you don't want to get off to the end. But no, it's really not a manifesto on autism or a way to raise awareness around that. There's plenty of vehicles out there for that. I just really wanted to honor the boys, and at the end I do at the very end, the backstory, I do kind of tell our personal story. About a little bit, and give insight into why I wrote it there, and people seem to really enjoy that. I'm tying in how the character is based on someone that's real.
Wow. But now we can't ignore the fact that an autistic kid could see himself in that, and I believe that is paramount, especially these days, when everybody wants something that looks like and that they can relate to. What are your feelings on that? I'm pretty sure you're ecstatic, but.
Well, I think that's just sort of a lot of times you discover something by accident. You're looking for one thing, and it just happens in medicine all the time. You know, I see one of my good friends, Dr. Wilson, on there. He'd probably chime in on that, but you know, you're trying to cure a drug for one thing, and you end up having a benefit for another. The fact that there could be a lot of higher functioning kids with autism that can read, and they see a character that they can relate to in literature. That's I guess that's lagniappe, like we say in New Orleans. You know, it's a little something extra. You know, but it wasn't my focus when I was writing it. Like I said, my focus really was, I didn't know if anyone would ever read it. You know, it was really more to, for me to take something when I was feeling really crummy and, be able to say, okay, I'm honoring these boys. And if they ever become self-aware, if medicine ever does catch up and there's pharmacy that breaks the blood-brain barrier or a neurotransmitter or stem cells, and all of a sudden, then they'll have a little monument from their dad that reflects how much I love them, so.
That is wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to all of the things that you've told us about the rat? It sounds like a very interesting read, and hopefully, can we find this book at Shreve Memorial Library?
Yeah, you guys. Oops, I lost my screen. I was looking at the chats. How do I get y'all back? Can y'all still see me?
Oh yeah, we can see you.
Okay. Well, yeah, the book is at the library. Mr. Tuggle was kind enough to buy some copies, so it definitely can be checked out at the library. It can be bought at Amazon online, both as a print version and as an e-copy, and BarnesandNoble.com as the print version. I am looking at one of the questions. It says, what's your process for character development? Do characters come first? And, oh, I got y'all back. And so I said, so yeah, what I do in that regard is I can't get this to go away. What I do is I outline my characters, and I kind of put the beginning of the book, and I kind of put the middle of the book, and I kind of put the end of the book, and then I kind of fill in that way. I don't know. I'm not trained as a writer, so I don't know if that's how writers write or not, but it's just the way I write. And I try to do things. I'm a visual person as well, so I really try to stick to things I've seen, so I can authentically describe them vividly. You know, so everything that's in that book is pretty much a place I've been to and have actually spent time in. The only thing I fudged on was in Memphis. I haven't really been to the bus station in Memphis. That was the only thing I fudged on, but everything else, every other town they go to, everything they've been in, it's stuff I've been inside of and described. You know, in Washington, some of the government offices, they may not be exactly like a government office that the character's in, but I've been in enough government offices. I mean, I've lobbied with chambers and things like that. So I've been in Senate offices. I've been in congressmen's offices. I've been in the larger venues. You know, it kind of reflects what my memory tells me. So.
Is there another question? Do you see any other questions in the box?
Let's see. Do I have any writing experience before this? How did I get started? I had zero writing experience before this, other than my journalism stuff. Like I said, I wrote for my high school paper. I worked for the New Orleans newspaper as a stringer. I would call stories in. I wouldn't actually write them, but I call them in. I wrote for my college paper. I did start a blog, merrillwautlet.com, and I would write some slice of life stuff. And that's still out there, some of my musings. And that was really also for the boys. I lost my dad when I was 11. I never got to have an adult conversation with him, so I never really got to know him as a genuine man. I just remembered the brief things about him as my dad. So I didn't know if my boys ever became self-aware, if they would really know who I was, unless I left some breadcrumbs. So that blog is really some breadcrumbs of things that, slices of life that I noticed and talked about, as well as the book.
Are there any other questions?
Ivy, I don't see any more questions in the chat.
Okay. Well, are there any parting words that you have for us, Mr. Wautlet?
Well, no, I just want to thank all my friends that tuned in. Like I said, a lot of them have already read and seen the book, so I appreciate that. Or we've been in an empty room. So I really do thank them for joining in, and I want to thank the library for the support, and I certainly do appreciate. Oh, we got one perilous. I work in education. I have the opportunity to see children deal with autism every day because my job, most of the time, I read educational books. I have to say this book is refreshing. I really enjoyed reading it. Thank you, Velasco. I appreciate that. So, and she lives up in the Chicago area, so she knows. The book starts in Chicago, works its way down that 900-mile stretch of interstate. So, yeah. So anyway, I thank all y'all for coming in. I have no delusions of grandeur about the book other than I hope it punches forward.
Well, we appreciate each and every one of you guys for joining us for the Shreve Memorial Library Author Chat. Of course, we meet here every first Thursday of each month at 6 p.m. And we are so delighted that we've got a chance to chat with Mr. Merrill Wautlet and to be able to talk about his book, The Rat. Ladies and gentlemen, we wish you guys a very pleasant evening. And thank you again, Mr. Wautlet.
Well, thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Very good.
Thank you.